Okay, well, hello everybody. Welcome to this live event for the Kindle Flash Sale. My name is Mitch Weisberg. I'm coming to you from New York, so it's morning. In here in New York, and Jacqueline's coming from Switzerland, where it's afternoon, and Lisa's coming from California, where it's early in the morning. And so, probably the best way to start is for each of us to introduce ourselves. So, I don't know, Lisa, why don't you? I mean, who knows? But Lisa, why don't you go first?
Sure. Mitch and Jacqueline, such an honor to be on this panel with you, and thank you for getting things kicked off. As he mentioned, it's very early in the morning here in California, so I'm dusting off some cobwebs. But from a background perspective, I worked in corporate America for 18 years. I studied engineering at the University of Michigan, had a pretty traditional career. But then I just had this nagging problem that I fell in love with that I just couldn't seem to solve within the confines of being an entrepreneur. And that was, I really felt called and pulled to address the problems of human trafficking in the world. And so, as a technologist, I'm really good at bringing innovation and influential leaders together to address big, hairy problems at scale. And I decided that that was the big, hairy problem I wanted to address. So I left corporate America with a friend of mine from Apple. We co-founded our AI startup back in 2017, focusing on making kids safer online and in real life. And as a result of that, we were able to change some of the footprint in the Apple phone. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my TED Talk on that at my website, lisathie.com. And when he went back into Apple University to teach male allyship for women in STEM, he asked me to write this book, which is my first entree into authorship in my 40s. So I'm here because I wrote Go, Reboot Your Career in 90 Days. I wanted to make sure as AI was coming into the workplace, and since I've been a management consultant in this area for some of the biggest companies and some pretty innovative startups, I've seen this coming for a while. People knew what to do when we started to feel threatened for our future of work. So very happy to be here.
Wow, wow. Well, thank you. And Jacqueline, why don't you go next?
Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for the invitation. I think it's really great, our three books together. I actually looked at your two books before I just dive in. You, Mitch, mind shifting, stop your brain from sabotaging, and Lisa's Go, reboot your career, and together with mine, Fearless Mind. For me, they're real a toolkit, the why, the how, and the what next of reinventing yourself. So I thought it can't be a coincidence that we three met today on this podcast. So who am I? I'm Dr. Jacqueline Crucero. I'm a social scientist, a data scientist. I studied law, and I've been working for over 20 years for the government, for the parliament. I have been in industry, in finance, also in my career. So as a data scientist, also I was programming like in my earlier career. And when I actually led the parliamentary library research and parliamentary data teams working directly for the members of parliament for the last 6 years, I came across naturally AI and the implementation of the new digital tools and so on. I've been always very technical, on board, always working for the highest hierarchies. So what led me to what I'm doing today is really this professional career when I transformed my teams from a non-digital, environment as a parliament, you can imagine, like just before COVID, it's been very paper-driven. So when I arrived like 6.5 years ago, I really had to digitize and digitalize the whole, staff and the tools, obviously, also. So when I spent, all these years at frontline and decision making, I got also this nagging, like 2.5 years ago, when I started writing my books last year. I published in the Fearless Mind and how your human brain beats AI, because it became very important to me that we do not lose ourselves as human beings, you know, and
Yep.
so we really have this human and machine relationship, which I found very important. And so I founded my own company, SOTRI, which stands for Source in Trust in AI. I also went back as a research fellow to the University of Tokyo in Japan for a couple of months. I just came back and I'm a research fellow also at the University of Lausanne now, researching really these problems on the field level, and will be publishing about also scientifically. But I'm on my fourth book now, but today it's about fearless mind and our relationship between machine and human being.
Okay, and I'm Mitch Weisberg, and I'm the author of the book for the Kindle flash sale, the Mind Shifting: Stop Your Brain from Sabotaging Your Happiness and Success. Unfortunately, I don't have the background that either Jacqueline or Lisa has. I haven't had their level of accomplishments, but I will say that one of the things that I'm doing now, which gives me great joy, is I started a cooking program for middle school students at our Hispanic Center. And so we talked to the Hispanic Center about things that they wanted to do, and they had nothing for middle school kids. So Wednesdays, today actually, from 5 to 8, we have 12 kids between 10 and 12 years old, and we're teaching them cooking. Tonight happens to be the graduation night for the second cohort, and the program has been so successful that the community center has hired a director to run the program. So I will stay as a volunteer, cleaning the dishes, talking to the kids, or whatever. But I no longer have to run the program. So anyhow, it is so much fun to be in a position where you're just interacting, you're cooking, you're eating, you're joking with three generations of people. We should be doing more of that as a society. And so anyhow, so that's all I'll say about my background. I will say that there's a QR code on the probably the top left of your screens. That's the QR code for the Kindle flash sale, and we'll be talking about that as well pretty soon. But let's just returning, let's say, to Jacqueline first. Maybe you can talk about why you wrote this book and who's the audience for your book, Fearless Mind.
I think it became very evident for me that people believe that machines are far more faster, smarter, and they just will, dominate us. People believe that machines are more reliable than we human beings. So all this noise about AI, in particular when generative AI came across with the chatbots, with the large language models becoming very powerful, everyone can use them, very efficiently through talking to them. So that's why I was triggered to write this book, Fearless Mind, and telling people, that our human brain is far more intelligent. And I wanted to make people realize that they don't have to be in competition with a machine. They're not going to win that competition, but they should actually re-center themselves and rediscover themselves as human beings. How fascinating, we are built, and we always have these new ideas. Even though we can say that, and I know these machines and algorithms very well, I program them, I program agents, and so people should not believe that they matter less. They really should use the AI tools for their advantage, and they should also, this oversight they should give in. I think we have lots of challenges all about that. So my book really wants to tell the audience that remain, human, reconnect with your own clarity, be courageous, even if we are in a changing world. because in an age of algorithms and machine, the human is the one who is important.
That's so important because so many of us are fearful of what AI is going to be doing from so many different directions, from the environment, from taking away our jobs, from uh, you know spreading false information around. And I think that what you've done in Fearless Mind is set out how we as humans can take control over what we can take control over. So I think that's so wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
Lisa, I'll just turn it to you then. Why did you write "Go Reboot Your Career in 90 Days," and what do you want people to get out of your book?
Sure. As a tech elder, which I guess is how I define myself at this season of my career, 30 years in now. Oy vey, I can't believe I'm
Yeah.
saying that, but
Wait a minute. Oy vey, you're from California. Like that's a New York expression. I'm sorry. You can't say
oh, I think we go back probably on some common roots that are a little bit more historic than America. Yes, no, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I teach for University of Michigan in Ann Arbor still for the engineering school there. Yeah, so my thought process here was this. I got into AI early. I got into it because I was working back in the tech industry when my children were young. I had been selling technology around and saw what was happening around personalized medicine and how AI was really saving the lives of cancer patients, and some of the really cool ways we can do things with data to like find the pearls of wisdom in these oceans of information that are way too vast for any human to ever be able to process. And so, being an insider in tech, I was able to see applications that are just not publicly available for people to know and understand. And at that time, my kids were 2 and 3 years old, and I had seen the damages of human trafficking as an executive as I was traveling in a global role. I'd been to 36 countries before the age of 30. I'd seen it very firsthand. I always knew when I got to a place of power that I wanted to make sure that being a woman in tech with some authority, that I would use my voice to speak for women and children globally that didn't have one. So this book was a culmination of wanting to be a visible role model for women in STEM. I was born the year after women were allowed to have a credit card in America or even found a company. I'm a female founder who has raised capital and had a successful exit in AI back in 2017, before people were talking about AI and safety together. I am the head of the International AI Safety Commission for the Global Council for Responsible AI, and we are working across the globe to come up with the answers for helping legislatures understand how do we actually regulate some of this stuff and make sure that we have the right people in the room and the best thinkers in this space. And so having a book like this has allowed me to make sure that as these huge changes are happening in our society, both, in the academic sphere, in the work sphere, in the family structure, I've kind of always been tip of spear, or maybe living about 5 years ahead of everyone else. So yeah, this book was making sure that I was sharing my wisdom, because I found out I have an incurable disease and it wasn't clear I was going to be here by now.
Wow.
Luckily, I've been able to use the methods that AI does automatically to get a diagnosis, and now I'm on life-saving treatment. And this book is really my legacy of making sure that more people get to come along with this change. My co-founder of my startup, Hassan, asked me to write this book so he could bring it in-house to Apple to train all of Apple's employees, as he was the head of Apple University. He also wanted to bring it back to his home country in Bangladesh to teach more women, especially in Bangladesh and India, about stepping into their power as leaders in technology, the way he was able to help his brothers raise their standards of living. Unfortunately, he passed away the day after I signed my publishing contract with Fast Company, and that couldn't happen. And so I finished this book in his honor. I wrote this with my children in mind, to know how to share what I've learned being an insider in this space. And my hope and my dream is that more people read it and step into their power and their leadership and their agency in this transition. Because right now there's no better way to take whatever you're great at, whatever problem you're obsessed with, and step into entrepreneurship, because that's going to be where wealth is generated in this next season.
And as I was listening to you talk, and having read a lot of your book at this point, it just seems to me that you're also addressing that is people as individuals, as people. Like some of us have ADHD. Some of us have long COVID. Some of us have confront sexual harassment, and so it's the under it's it. A lot of the material in your book is about recognizing we don't have to be this idealized person to run a fulfilling life. We start with who we are, and whoever we are, we can have that kind of a life. I don't know, maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I just feel like I've always felt a calling in my life to do something, a pull.
Mhm.
And no matter how much I try to drown it out, I seem to get pulled back in that direction. I may take a long detour from it, but I think we're all born with something we're uniquely gifted to do. And what I think this transition can do is free people up to really have the tools to actually do that and scale it. And I would have never believed this in a zillion years. I mean, literally 10 years ago, I was a 40-year-old mom who had mostly stayed home with her kids, to be honest with you, for the first couple of years. I took 10-month maternity leaves with both, and they're 16 months apart. So you can do the math. I wasn't working for a while. And
if you were in Finland, you would have been paid for it.
Absolutely, which is my maiden name. I am quarter Finnish. So darn it. Yeah, but you get the idea. I just saw how unjust all of this was, especially for maybe my age bracket. We graduated into the dot-com bust. Then we had 9/11 a couple years into our career. And then, the mortgage, we all bought houses finally, and then the mortgage crisis hit.
Mhm.
And then we're parenting through the pandemic with school-age kids. And it just kind of felt like we were getting all the headwinds. Right. But now, like, I see it as we're actually really uniquely qualified to lead through this. Like, we do this. Like, yeah, the world has changed a zillion times on us. We had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood, and we can be that bridge, and we can be that sage guide. And Hassan and I were the same age. He grew up on a chicken farm in Bangladesh. I grew up in an auto factory in Detroit, and but we came up through tech together ultimately. And who knew people like us could change the world? But if we can do it now, the next generation can change the big issues, the climate change, the things that matter.
And that leads a little bit into like why I wrote my book, or I should say books, because the topic, the general topic, is mind shifting. And my second career was in education. I got into education technology because I felt technology had the power to transform education so that education could propel every kid to having a great life. And we weren't doing that back in 2000, 2001, 2002. And it's like, well, we've got this technology. This could really, really make things happen. And lo and behold, like 15, 16 years later, I'm looking and I'm saying, we're no better at preparing kids for a great life than we were 15 years ago. So it can't be just the technology. And so I kind of sat back and I wrote myself into teaching a course to university students, a workshop on how successful people are successful. And um, so of course, being an entrepreneur, it's like you say you're going to do something, you commit to it, and then you have the realization, like, Mitch, you have no idea how to do this. But I had 6 months. Okay, so I started researching, and like I researched everything. I did, psychology, neuroscience, cognitive science, behavioral science, economics, decision making, corporate coaching. Um, just looking for strings. And what dawned on me is that there's really, you could look at it from three different points of view. One is, how do successful people control their own brain so that they don't get into the fight flight. Or when they do, they recover from it really fast. Two, how do they approach situations when the vast majority of things that we do don't work out? And our natural tendency as human beings is to judge and blame. It's the situation, it's the people, it's ourselves, whatever. But successful people take that information and they treat it as information that allows them to adjust and continue to move forward. So I call that resilience. And then the third part is whatever we do, we're going to be doing it with other people. And every once in a while, you're going to meet a person who doesn't do exactly what you want them to do. So, so in the rare event that might happen to you, also, it's like our natural tendencies of what to do with people is to steamroll them or reward them or punish them or try to convince them, and those tend not to work in the long term. But successful people enroll others and get them to want to move forward. So how do they do that? So the third part is on conflict and collaboration. And it's conflict and collaboration because out of conflict very often comes a much higher level of collaboration than we would normally think about it. So it's how do you do conflict and collaboration?
You are so spot on, man. I just got the chance to lead a team through an activity on red lines for some AI safety things. And boy, we were not able to skip the conflict stage. And I was cringing inside as the leader going, am I leading this right? But it was through the resolution that we got to an answer where everybody there was no disagree and commit in the room. It was actually we actually co-created something that's better for it.
So you did.
I think your voice is so important right now because we're getting so caught up in doing the same things we were doing faster, not thinking about are we doing the right things. And I think you're recalibrating us to make sure that we are.
And I really like that. It resonates a lot with me, Mitch, what you just said, because I mean, we should actually disagree. We should actually not.
Wait a minute, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. We should not disagree. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the point, which for me, that's transformation in the AI era. We need to be able to disagree without being punished, I mean, it resonates so clearly. And also the resilience factor you just described before, when you did this course, successful people, they get up, it's a stepping stone, it's just, they just move up again, because they learned something new. And I think if we all have a look at life like that, it's not a defeat, it's really actually be going forward to the next success. Because if the door closes, there's going to be another one which is going to be open, and we've already learned more for being prepared for opening this one. I really like what you're saying. Working with these people is so important, and I think we should do more about that.
And one of the things that's exciting to me in meeting with both of you is that that's really the crux of both of your books also. The Fearless Mind and, Go Reboot Your Career. You're dealing with, changing our attitudes so that we can be resourceful, we can be resilient, and we can work with others. And that's what, both of you talk about in your books.
And when I started writing my book, I didn't know how the ending was going to go. I started writing my book in 2021 when I was very sick, like bedridden sick. Like I was writing because I couldn't stay out of bed for more than about 2 hours at a time for a calendar year. I went deaf.
Wow.
I had all sorts of scary symptoms that nobody could explain to me. I was, told to make end of life plans in 2022 for 7 days before they changed their mind. So when I say I really didn't know how this was going to turn out, those skills that you're talking about are hard earned in my case. This is not my first reboot. This is probably my fourth. And what's crazy is now when I was putting AI and safety together in the same sentence a decade ago, everybody looked at me like I was a little bit of a wackadoodle. Like maybe I was the conspiracy theorist versus what was scaling on the internet as an insider that I knew about. And now everybody understands the urgency of the moment, at least at some gut level, that things have changed. There is an awareness now. I think there's a receptiveness. And I'm so excited to find out that you live in Switzerland, Jacqueline, because I will be there in both September for the UN and for November for the Swiss AI Summit, and potentially connecting with Parliament there. So I think our paths are very crossing for a reason. And I think, Mitch, the reason that I think of this so globally is because I've had the chance to host the main stage of the World AI Festival in Cannes from 2022, 23, and 24. I've also hosted a podcast for 3 years professionally called Navigating Forward, and a web series interviewing founders in this space from my cohort of time for the last 4 years as well. So, you know, as somebody who's actually been deploying this stuff in the wild for a long time, I know a little bit about some of the corners for online safety,
yes, you do,
but also some of the corners for what the tech can and can't do. And I think you guys are highlighting those really important strengths and actually reflecting more of the Eastern philosophies of AI and what's going to happen with this transition, which is actually a lot of optimism. So I think in the West, we tend to hear a lot of the doom and gloom and what we're going to lose. But from an Eastern front, because they tend to be just structured differently as a society with different prioritizations of values, they're seeing ways to get better healthcare, better food distribution, better opportunities to their people. You know, this is going to scale a lot of people away from, like, bring them into a place where they can have access to opportunity that was maybe never available before. And I think, you know, that is not limited to people that are in one place or the other. As long as we are open-minded and thinking about our own selves, our values, our communities, where we want to be more uniquely human, like your example, Mitch, with starting your program, cooking. And, you know, how long have we been gathering around a fire, sharing food and connecting as communities? That is as human as we get. You know, perhaps we can partner with the machines to reclaim some of our discretionary energy and be more uniquely human again. We're so lonely.
And Jacqueline, I want to go to you, Jacqueline, because as Lisa, as you're talking, you're bringing up all, you know, so many areas where humans and AI, you know, can transform the world. And Jacqueline, you have so many examples of that in your book. Maybe you can, would you mind talking about something, you know, an example?
Yeah, I think very importantly, you know, it's so relevant that we as human beings, you know, we really come back, that we to ourselves, you know, this bridge human and machine, which just also over like different countries, parts of the world, you know, that's something which I really address also in my book, the cultural issue, the neuro scientific issues. There's so many different layers, you know. I just spent 2 months in Japan at the Tokyo University to research AI relationship of AI and the human beings. Now, I already put, actually last year when I published my book last year, I already put many of that in my book. And it's really very important to know that depending how we human beings actually think about the machine, you know, as a tool or as a part of our world, we actually might lose fear altogether. That's why I'm very positive about this relationship, human and machine. If we look at the Japanese culture, which I studied a lot, it's really nice to see, and also this over 30 interviews with C-level leaders from all different institutions and organizations. They were coherent in saying, like, we have like this a soft law approach, you know, an open approach, really to encourage the relationship between the human and the machine. And that's what I describe in my book. It's not about losing ourselves as humans and delegating everything to the machine. We actually can use it as an assistant, as a self-running agent, but would we have to assure that it's trustworthy, it's responsible. It has to be the human concepts inside to be useful for us as human beings. What it doesn't mean, there's so many literature about, that's one of the reasons I wrote my book, is a world without work. I mean, you, Lisa, mentioned it before also, Mitch. I mean, there's so many other things we can do. I mean, even cooking you do differently today than you would have done it 20 years ago, with getting ideas, or chatting on chatbots and so on. So we're connecting differently. We just should be very importantly aware of the accountability part and the responsible part when we're developing such tools. And so this human side, I want to get people back really to feel themselves again, who are we? Because we can lose ourselves together only, having a relationship with the machine. But we actually could use it differently, strengthen, where we really have repetitive tasks or big analysis. And yes, it's also true that in Japan, they have their first AI scientist, he innovates, and they roll out to a very big program where many scientific analysis and innovation can take place through calculations of AI agents. However, that's not what we humans should do. We should, base, check, and see at the end, define ourselves. What do we need? What do we want? And really decide ourselves in which direction and how we use these tools. And that's what I want with my fearless mind in my book.
And those are really 3 questions, Lisa, you have in your book also, right? It's funny.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's surprising that we're meeting today because it feels like we co-created our manuals. What I felt like, at least for me, and maybe it's just a temperament thing, I am a bit on the type A side, being an entrepreneur by background. I'm on my 3rd AI startup now, and I'm on the board of 4 private AI companies. So this is the world I've kind of been in for a while now. Is by the time I realize I need a change, I'm usually so burned out I can barely see straight. So I tried to, when I knew I had to reset and do this again for myself, I started writing because that's what I do to process my feelings. And I also felt like, there's nothing worse than people that whitewash how hard it was to do it by writing it after it's all over and they forget what it was really like going through it. And so my book is set up almost like a recipe you'd find online. Like if you want to read all the origin stories of all the ingredients in this amazing recipe that in 90 days you can get clarity on where you want to be and where you are today and how you're going to bridge that. You can read the origin story in the first 10 chapters. If you just want to make a great meal that night and you don't have any energy left and you just want to be told what to do, that's chapter 11 through 14. And I will tell you exactly what to do for the next 90 days to be able to get to that place. And then the last half of the book is how to kill it as a business owner and an entrepreneur. I've been doing this for a long time now. And I wanted to make sure that you didn't have to afford me as a coach like Amazon Innovation Lab out of Boston hires me to do. I want to make sure it's accessible to everybody that wants to be especially my community. The disabled community is the 3rd largest user of technology. They are so technology forward because it's out of necessity. Think about the opportunities for people with disabilities to be able to kill it in this new era of leading in the age of AI. think about women who maybe didn't have a voice at the table because they didn't even know where the table was. Now they can not only build their own table, but change the conversation. There are so many disruptive trends that are happening right now that people can latch onto that I think are really going to make, that vision that I see, which is, JFK's vision of when waters rise, all boats float.
Yep. And
really like that. Yeah, I just would like to join because what I've seen in Japan is a concrete example. People who couldn't go out of their rooms, because
oh
of
yes,
disabilities, they actually were serving in the restaurant with with a robot. They were actually in the face of the robot. You could see their face, and they were talking to you, asking what you would like to order, and they actually were running around as robots. So they were paid for these hours, which I think that's one of the nicest examples, for getting people to work who wouldn't be able to work otherwise.
great example.
That's beautiful. I started my career forecasting the cellular market in the early 2000s, and we always bought data about what Japan was doing because they're always like the leaders in tech of what's possible. So what a beautiful example. I hadn't heard that yet. Thank you for sharing like the most beautiful example of that. I never even dawned on me. How cool.
That is cool. And so people could, you can pick up our books, or all of our books are on Amazon, and our books plus 30 other books are available from this the QR code on the top of your screen, which is the Kindle flash sale. That's where 30 to 40, I guess 34 independent authors have gathered together to help each other support each other's books, which is what we're doing here in this live event. So maybe we can just switch a little bit. Like Lisa, why did you what did you put your book up on the Kindle flash sale?
Yeah, I put my book up on the Kindle flash sale, I think a little bit because of my origin story. I don't really love doing business to consumer sales. I don't know how to be hip and cool and relevant and break through all the noise of the internet. I wrote this book to be like a business to business sale so that people didn't have to pay their own money to know how to stay relevant in the workplace. I wanted their employers to do it. So I wanted to make sure that anybody that is like maybe even thinking about, maybe I'm not ready to change yet, but I know I'm going to be ready in 6 months. Like I'm going to just make it through the holidays and then I'm going to have my big moment, or like wherever people's mindset are at. I want to make sure they can buy this, they can tuck it away from when they're ready for it, but they can have me in their ear as a cheerleader when they are ready to make that change. And I also hope that you're willing to let me ask you one question, Mitch, because this would really benefit me. You can answer it if you want to now or later. You're the host. But I'm at a place where I'm really about to be much more of a household name than I'm comfortable being. I finally accepted that that's going to be part of my life if I'm going to complete my mission, which is being a visible role model for this next generation. I'm not sure we're going to figure all this stuff out in my generation. I'm not there, but I have a lot of faith in these millennials and Gen Zs. I think they're going to figure some stuff out we never did. And so, if I want to be that, see it to be I gotta be seen. How do you suggest for people like me that are never wanted, I wanted to be the scientist in the lab doing the breakthroughs. Like I'm the Jane Goodall character out of the Avengers. I'm not a Black Widow. I don't want that. How do you suggest for people like us, like this fear of success and like what to do about it? Because it does come with a lot of attention that maybe is.
Yeah. So one of the aspects of being human is we all have this part of our brains which psychiatrists call our part X. And the part X is a survival part of the brain that's designed to protect us from danger. And protecting us from danger means that anything that could have a risk, it starts criticizing you to prevent you from doing it. So as you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't, like if I do this, I'm gonna, this is what's gonna happen. To understand that that's not true. It's not false either, but it's not the truth. It is your part X trying to stop you from doing something that could have tremendous benefit, but could have some risk also. And when you realize that this is just my part X, and yes, it's telling me to be careful, but it should be a warning. It shouldn't be the boss. And so, okay, I have this warning to watch out, but you know something, part X, you did your job. Now I'm going to do what I really want to do, and I'm grounded, and I'm going to move forward. Then you can overcome it.
And that's
Thank you.
exactly
That's a
what
beautiful
my
answer.
that's beautiful. And I would like to join in that, because my 27 chapters, they go through that part, they go through that consciousness. And each chapter has questions for reflections at the end. And they go exactly through all these feelings, emotions. So that's really something, that's a book. You don't have to read it through. You can really dive in each chapter, and it's talking about all the feelings we have, and we shouldn't interpret them just as flight and fight mode, and not as you called it, the space
Yep.
X. we should
Yep.
we should be very conscious what's going on neuroscientifically in our brains today, because we have so much knowledge today, so everyone actually can really go and deeper inside and reflect on these questions and get out of it and organize their lives differently. I would like to say something more, Lisa, to what you just said. We should actually change and be like role models for next generations. We won't be able to have all the same kind of structures of organizations, institutions, and being employed all 100% full time. We're going to work differently. That's, I think, one of the steps we could imagine. That's why I stepped out of my role of the Parliament Library head, and I went and started my own company, 1.5 years ago. And that's why I'm a research fellow again, at the University of Lausanne, just to be a role model. And I am like an ambassador, for women empowerment, because I think women, they tend to go back a step, and say, no, I won't be able to do that. But I think we can be role models, women and men, for women and men, and like reorganizing. I really loved also what Mitch was saying, because of this class. I think that's such a wonderful thing to have cooking classes becoming more concrete again, and not just behind our screens on whatever digital exchanges we are.
One of the things that was really interesting about the cooking class is that at the very first session for this cohort, we had them break into two people. They had 3 questions to ask each other, and then they had to describe the answers that the other person gave. Like, what do you like to eat? What do you don't like to eat? Questions like that. They couldn't ask each other the questions. There's 12 kids in the class. Only 2 of them actually got through the 3 questions. The other ones just sat there and did nothing. And that's how, people are being socialized into society today. But I will say the class was, 2.5 hours. By the end of the class, they're, they couldn't stop talking to each other. And so, like, we can break through that, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It was so fascinating watching that.
That's something I did with my teams, transform the teams and prepare them for the AI era. It's exactly that. I told them like 6 years ago, it's, if you are in this room on a team meeting, everyone is going to speak. And I mean, you could imagine in the beginning, they wouldn't speak because the others, they would not let them, or they were too scared to say a word.
Right.
At the end, because they feared whatever they feared, socially constrained. And at the end, we all were like, talking. I always wanted everyone was expressing themselves, because that's something we have to come back, feel ourselves again, being conscious what we actually own and what we do not own.
Do you mind if I share a little bit more about what motivates me in this space? Because I'm feeling a little brave for once based on what you said, Mitch, and I think I'm just going to take a risk I wouldn't usually take.
Go for it.
I mentioned a little earlier, I signed a book deal for my second and third book. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what my third book's going to be, because it's a natural evolution of this book. I wrote this book for the audience of, the business side of things. But my third book is really my family origin story and why I'm passionate about this. So I am a direct descendant of two concentration camp survivors from the Holocaust. And my mission to save women and children from modern day slavery and human trafficking is completely informed by my grandparents' experiences. And I have used my AI for good hat at a multinational tech company a decade ago as an AI founder myself, with a successful exit as a management consultant for companies like Meta and Microsoft and the digital crimes units there. I'm pretty well known in the industry for what I do. And I've always been very scared to be seen, because in my family, being hidden is being safe. And in this era, I think for a lot of generations, privacy is something that is not something you protect or something you even worry about. But I was raised in an era that it was. And being in this bridge generation, I think it's important that people see people being brave with this technology, people being willing to be seen. I think, there is so much mis and disinformation out there in the world. It's really hard for people to recognize truth and fiction and those delineations. And I think as authors, we have a really important role to play. I think a lot of the reasons in the West we all are fearful of AI is because of screenplays that were written 50 years ago.
Right.
My co-founder at my healthcare AI startup hadn't seen The Terminator. I made her watch it with me. She's young enough to be my daughter, right, in her 30s. And so, and when I rewatched it this weekend, it was set in 2029. Was the
Oh
super
my gosh,
future.
I had no idea.
I had no idea till I rewatched it as well, right? As the creatives, as the artists, we are casting a vision of what the future can look like and what we can all aspire to get to. And I think that this is a beautiful way you can see, like in these Kindle flash sales and things like that, like we can build any kind of world we want to. We just have to be able to start taking the right steps there. And I'm a firm believer in, power is earned, like when you have success, it's undeniable success. I don't think anybody says Kim Kardashian doesn't know how to run a business. You might disagree with whether her business was, easy to do or not, but she certainly knows how to make money. And I think AI is really going to be that enabler for people that have that vision. Maybe you're like the best finance person in the world and you want to solve a problem in your industry. Boom, add AI, you can do it. Like, we're at a really cool inflection point.
Yeah, I look at both of you and look at you as beacons of where we should be heading, and really the role models that we all should be following. So thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Jackie, do you feel the exact same way of like when you made these choices, you were committing career suicide like 5 years ago or whatever, and everybody looked at you like you were nuts? When I left corporate America, my mom told me that I didn't need any childcare anymore because I didn't have a job. I'm like, Mom, I'm the CEO of a software company. What are you talking about? Like, it's just such a mindset shift for a lot of us, maybe on the older side.
Yeah, and that's very important to be role models, because if I can give the audience one last thing, it's really our greatest strength as human beings is not the knowledge, it's humanity, and we can reinvent ourselves every single day.
It is what makes us uniquely human.
So I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking maybe it would be a good time, I guess, because we all are part of the Kindle flash sale. Is there one other book that you'd like to recommend or more? And I'll just say that from my standpoint, I'm thoroughly enjoying reading both, the Fearless Mind book, yours, Jacqueline, and Go Redesign Your Career reboot your career in 90 days. Here's Lisa. And because, I figured, okay, so I should add another one. There's another book by Lisa Ryan, Smart Run, which is aligning AI automation. I'm sorry, Smart Plant. Sorry, Smart Plant. Um, Aligning AI automation and people, and it's really about how systems can be aligned with people and how people can be aligned with systems. And I thought that was a really insightful book. I don't know, Lisa, why don't you?
Yes, I do have a recommendation. Now, this one is personal to me, so take it with a grain of salt. But my area of expertise is broadly AI, but certainly not healthcare. And so I was really excited to find one book on my Kindle that I'm really bad at Kindle, so I'm trying to get to the front page to tell you the title. Dr. Jackie, do you mind giving me some airtime to get to the right place?
And on the Kindle, isn't there like an arrow on the top left that takes you automatically to the beginning, or not?
Oh, thank you. Yes, here we are. Okay, wonderful. So the book that I'm enjoying right now is Clarity by Design, comprehensive checklists in medical communication, because I am now the co-founder of a healthcare startup and I need to figure out how to build the right AI. And so having somebody that has made every medical checklist on the planet easily available to me and I don't have to think about it is like the best gift I could be given. So I want to say thank you
and
to
the author?
Kelly Schrank, the author, and you guys can get it for 99 cents too.
Okay.
I would like to really promote the book of Robbie. Launch your book, because I would like to see far more people on this Kindle Flash sales. I think it's such a good initiative from Robbie, and I'm really so happy that we all can be here. So yeah, I would really promote this book again.
I suspect that all of us have read Robbie Samuel's Launch Your Book, and kind of use it as, okay, so I should be doing this now. I should be doing that now. So great recommendation.
I mean, he is so organized, right?
Yeah,
like,
yes,
I'm so impressed by what he puts together. It's really cool.
Okay. And one final thought. Jacqueline, how about you? What's your final thought that you'd like to leave people with?
I would like to leave them with a line from my book. Don't try to out-compete. Remember who you are. Stay the pilot. And lead with awareness, trust, and accountability. That is your fearless mind.
Oh, that's beautiful. And Lisa?
I'm going to end with a quote by my favorite person, which is Oprah Winfrey. Luck is the intersection of opportunity and preparedness. And so I encourage you all to focus on your preparedness. I think this Kindle Flash Sale gives you a lot of places to source from, so that when the right opportunities present itself, you can consider yourself lucky.
Okay, so now you've heard it. You can go to the QR code and look up our books and 31 other books that are on sale for 99 cents. It's buy all of them. I mean, for $34, you're going to get all of these books, and as a bonus, buying all 34 books, probably Jeff Bezos is going to be able to afford a cup of coffee now. So you'll be able to help Jeff. So this is Mitch Weisburgh signing off. Jacqueline, Lisa, thank you so much for this great conversation. And we'll definitely keep in touch. So looking forward to talking to you in the future. And everybody else, have a great rest of the day. And, root for either Argentina or Spain in the World Cup, because one of them is probably going to win.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. This is such a pleasure.
Okay, bye. Take care.
Bye.